2. Empowerment and revenge. Today's women, whom we unfoundedly refer to as emancipated, do not express the typical feelings of those who can be considered as such, but the symptomatic behaviors of those who cannot think of themselves as emancipated. Because instead of using the empowerment to emancipate themselves, they have used the empowerment for purposes that those who are not emancipated, that is, not fulfilled, but frustrated and unhappy, using it to punish, to take revenge and such. The idea that women would inevitably use this power to emancipate themselves, as if that were the only goal that could be achieved with this empowerment, when the existence of other goals was already known, could never be taken for granted. The women's empowerment, guaranteed by those rights they've acquired, could be used both to emancipate them or for other purposes. Power can be used in two main ways, either positively and constructively, which when used well can benefit both ourselves and others, or negatively and destructively, which when misused can result in harm to others as well as to ourselves. Knowing in advance those who had given them, upstream, this power, that it was not guaranteed that women would use it, downstream, for their own emancipation, but would inevitably use it for purposes that those who are not emancipated, but frustrated and embittered. Use it, that is, using it to punish, to take revenge, etc. In short, to take out their life frustrations on others. Leading us to ask ourselves, quite legitimately, whether this was not the real hidden objective behind the empowerment of women. Our suspicion is further strengthened and legitimized, especially after we realized in the previous point that the unequal treatment between men and women is not equally welcomed and cherished downstream by those same people who, upstream, attributed all this power to women, especially when, from this unequal treatment, it is men who suffer the injustices and women are the ones who are the beneficiaries. Unequally empowered to the detriment of men and to the benefit of women, but frustrated and unhappy, the purpose of giving power to women is more than evident, although never publicly acknowledged, never had anything to do with achieving equality between men and women or with the emancipation of women. Because when there is an unequal treatment between men and women, and it is men who suffer the injustices of that treatment, and women are the ones who benefit from that unfairness, the self-incriminating silence of those who complain when the situation is inverted, that is, when there is an unequal treatment between men and women, and it is men who benefit from that situation, while women suffer the injustices of that inequity, leads us to conclude that women's empowerment, led by feminism, has always had as its goal not their emancipation, because clearly women do not express the feeling of happiness, a characteristic of those who are truly emancipated, but the ultimate historical revenge against men. And for that reason, feminism, as a reactionary, that is, vengeful movement, based on resentment against the past, that is, against tradition, and its architects, that is, white men, rather than being a political movement for the empowerment of women, aiming their emancipation and subsequent equality and rights between them and men, is in fact a sexist movement that resentfully seeks to hide behind a false fight against sexism in favor of equality between men and women, its true revanchist purpose of empowering women while simultaneously disempowering men, so that they can vengefully dominate men and thus control them by reversing the elements of masculinity and femininity that this unequal empowerment of the sexes has given rise to.